Hi, Anja. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. Good morning, Tansy. Or, well, it's your afternoon. Good afternoon.
I don't know if we've ever really talked about where we are in the world. I think people could probably tell by our accents, but we never really give that much detail about who we are or where we are. Um, so, do you want to tell everybody where you are in the world?
I am in the Midwest of the United States of America. And actually, I'm in Chicago. Okay, how about you? Where are you at?
I am in the southwest of England. So, yeah, near to Exeter Way. Uh, yeah. So, what we wanted to talk about today was the exciting world of digital wallets. So, this is really about where to store your Bitcoin and crypto. There can be some misunderstandings about what a wallet is and how your coins are held in that wallet. And I think with events with wallets and exchanges collapsing, I think it's really important to go back to basics of the different types of wallets and just explaining the kind of different forms and which perhaps are safer in some capacities. So, in terms of wallets, I think maybe I'll just give a quick
Mhm.
account of what a digital wallet is. So, a digital wallet is basically like a piece of software where you have access to your crypto coins. So, Bitcoin always sits on the blockchain. So, you can imagine that this blockchain is a list of transactions that go all the way back to the beginning of Bitcoin. Your Bitcoin essentially is always featured on that transaction list, and it kind of states where it is, right? So your Bitcoin actually never sits in a wallet. It's not like you buy it and hold it in your wallet, and it is not connected to the blockchain. What actually happens is it stays on the blockchain, but this wallet gives you access to your Bitcoin in the blockchain. So what it's sort of difficult because we call it a wallet, but actually it's more of a sort of digital interface. And that's the thing with Bitcoin. It's just a huge global ledger that we are all interacting with. So we never actually physically hold Bitcoin because it's just a ledger. So even when we say, oh, I'm moving Bitcoin to you or I'm sending Bitcoin to you, it's like I'm just basically submitting a request to the ledger to update that says basically that I've sent you $50 of Bitcoin. And so these wallets, these digital wallets, act as an interface between you and that main ledger. So it tells you how much you have. So it's kind of like your own bank account where it tells you how much you are
Reminds
holding.
me, as you're talking about this, I want to sort of associate with something I understand. So I'm like going to banks. And banks, you don't actually hold that money in the bank. It's on a ledger. It's not like there's a little box where you have $500 in. It's just there's a ledger under your whatever your bank account number is that is associated with the ledger that says I've got 500 US dollars that the bank will give me when I ask for it, hopefully.
Yeah. Yes.
Or they don't even like nowadays, you don't even go and get that $500. You tell the bank to send it to Tansy's bank in Britain. And so there's the in our bank accounts, the ledger then changes. My ledger then now says minus 500 and yours says plus 500. But it's not actually sitting there, that $500 in your account.
Exactly. Your bank probably has so much relationship with my bank that ultimately they just deduct from yours and then my bank just adds to mine rather than like anything actually being sent. They just
So it's
put there's
all
like
about the ledger,
it's
really.
all a ledger. Yeah. So all
Yeah.
of and the difference is that all of our different banks have different ledgers. And that's the thing with Bitcoin. It's just a huge global ledger that we are all interacting with. So that is really helpful to sort of ascertain that Bitcoin, it's really the ledger, the Bitcoin ledger, that is so important. And so there's two different types of wallet. One is to have someone else, like a kind of bank sort of institution, that holds your account for you. So you can go into that wallet and send Bitcoin to someone and receive Bitcoin and send Bitcoin out of that wallet to another wallet. But you never have complete control over the money that you have in that account, a little bit like a bank. And these are called hosted wallets, or custodial wallets. So you can imagine that someone is custodialing, someone is a
Yeah,
custody.
custodian. I think that's a word now.
I made it a word. Someone is basically managing and overseeing your account. And the reason they do that is because they can kind of do lots of things on the in the interface. They can connect with lots of different other organizations and kind of integrate it into one complex but holistic software. So you can send money into that wallet. You can buy Bitcoin with that wallet. There's lots of different things you can do in that wallet, but someone else is kind of overseeing it and is in charge. And then there are wallets that are called self-custody or self-hosted. So you basically are in control of your own account. So if you want to, you can send and receive, but if you actually want to buy Bitcoin through those wallets, you often have to connect another kind of application that you then send Bitcoin in, that you then buy Bitcoin in, and then you send it into your wallet. So they can tend to be a lot more basic. Now, a lot of people have chosen the hosted wallet because they tend to have more offerings. They tend to be easier to use. You can kind of buy Bitcoin directly with them, but you don't have the key to the door of your wallet. So the key to the door of your wallet is called, it's called a seed phrase. The seed phrase is a combination of 12 or 24 words. And this is a kind of algorithmic code that's written in words that we can understand. So that when you have that, you basically hold the key to your wallet. So not going too deep into the kind of the technology, it's really important to know that in order to access your Bitcoin, you need to hold the private key to that Bitcoin. And that private key is associated essentially with a seed phrase. Your master key is the 12 and 24 seed phrase that you get when you open a wallet, and you will write that down or put that somewhere really safe. Do not hold it on your computer. Never ever give your seed phrase to anybody. The wallet provider will never ask you for it. It's your master key. So there is no way you ever need to put it in again unless you set up a new, unless you are logging in from a new computer and you basically need to reinstate that wallet. You will never need to use your seed phrase. You just hold it somewhere safe and you never tell it to anyone. And that's your master key. Yeah, so if we think about the master key giving you access to a room, and from that master key are all the keys to your different coins. And each of those keys opens a box. So when you walk into the room, you can see, like on these beautiful screens, how much Bitcoin you have, how much, say, Ethereum you have, how much of another coin you have. But in order to send or receive those coins, to send or receive the Bitcoin on that, from that master key, all of these other keys have kind of been formed. And you have a Bitcoin key, an Ethereum key, and another key for another coin. And that key is going to be confusing because you've got part of that key for your Bitcoin is split between a private key that's just yours and a public key that you give to somebody else. So what you do is you can access your box with your private key. So you can access your Bitcoin, so you can send it. But then if somebody wants to send you Bitcoin, you give them, your public key so that they can access the box from basically the other side. And anybody can see your public key, but they cannot get in to the room with the boxes. The boxes are like at the end, like a kind of post box. And so then if you have another, you set up another wallet or another room, you get another master key, and then all of the boxes kind of are tailored off this master key.
Yeah, that's so helpful visually, how those keys operate, and then sort of that separation between the master key that lets you into the room, and then all those other private and public key areas.
Yeah.
Yes. Nice. Thank you.
And that's why when people say not your keys, not your coins, it's like if you don't hold the key and the custodial party, the custodians, the kind of banks of crypto hold your key, they not only can block your access, what it's turned out is that some of them have been nefarious with your coins. And so they've left this ledger that shows what you have, but actually what they've been doing with the coins, because they ultimately have access, is to send to send coins somewhere else and to send Bitcoin somewhere else. And so they can basically deplete everybody's accounts without that being read on each person's individual ledger. So, you don't really know what's going on in a custodial wallet because someone else holds your keys to your Bitcoin. Mm-hmm. Whereas in a non-custodial or self-custody wallet, you hold your keys, you access that ledger of Bitcoin, the ledger of Ethereum, whatever it is, and you have this direct interface with blockchain. So, and that's why that's the sort of difference between these two types of digital wallets. Is there anything you want to add to
that? Well, one thing is it makes me think of the custodial wallets. When you say they can block you from using your Bitcoin, and we saw this happen where the governments can come in to this and tell these custodial wallets, no, you can't send that money. They can decide that no matter what your political affiliation is, or whatever you feel like, I want to give money to this person, this place, this organization. If your government doesn't agree with that, then you can't, because they will block it. That's pretty disheartening and disempowering. So the non-custodial wallets, there is no one. The government cannot go in there and tell somebody to block it off, because there is no one to be told to block that transfer. So that gives you an immense amount of freedom. So if you have family and you want to send them money because they need it, you can easily send them wherever it is, at whatever time and place. So I think that's very, very empowering. And I think it should be an essential human right to send your money.
And you mentioning human rights, there's a Bitcoin Human Right Development Fund, and that was set up exactly for this reason. So we can think, if we're in the West or kind of developed nations, how often is this going to happen? But then we can see that it did happen with Russia, and we can see that it did happen with the truckers protesting in Canada. They were prevented from accessing their Bitcoin in particular custodial wallets. And so it does happen. But I think so often we kind of forget that there are many countries around the world where the currency has completely crashed, or everything is being monitored, and there is no way to give money or to give aid to particular agencies in the country or particular human rights organizations, right? Because if you can't use the bank because the bank is either corrupt, closed, or takes your money, if there's no way to go through to funnel money through a bank to human rights organizations, you need to find another way. And so Bitcoin has been used to actually bring money to these aid organizations across the world to support with human rights efforts. And the key piece here is that we kind of think about these like right or wrong. Well, is it right to send so-and-so money, or is it, right to send, this country money, or is it right to go beneath the government and send money to that organization? And it's like, well, who gets to determine that? Like, if people can't eat anymore. You know, it's a bit like in Afghanistan. America has closed off their access to particular funds, and their money is printed, I think it is in Germany. And so the money has been blocked from Afghanistan. So, and that's basically to clamp down on the Taliban, because they didn't want the Taliban in power. And so they've basically stopped them having access to any money. Now, that may be hurting the Taliban, but it's really, really hurting the average person. They have no money in their banks. So it's like, okay, well, you could say, well, I mean, who's right there? The Taliban, you know, you can decide that the Taliban are not who you would want to have in power, but they're in power. So, you know, that's the situation. You could say it's up to them to decide for themselves if they have money, but we have America deciding that the Taliban aren't allowed access to the money. So then we could say to the US, that's not your right, but they're doing it. So it's like, okay, so we actually haven't got much decision making here in terms of who is right. We just can see that there's all of these people who are dying and starving because they haven't got access to money. So it almost doesn't matter what's happening on the global scene. Like, opinions change, right? Power changes, but we still have to take care of the most vulnerable in society. And there's people out there who want to support them. And so, and that, and like enabling channels to access the to access the most hard off, or to access people who really need that money, like that is a human right. Like you said, it's a human right to be able to access money that offers us survival. And, you know, do we have a right to decide which channels get closed down? Because just like we see with US closing down the channel to the Taliban, look what damage they're causing to the people of Afghanistan. So how do you determine, you know, how do you make an ethical judgment about this? Surely it's just about giving everyone access to all of the channels of money, and having politics as something separate. So, you know, there is a huge argument for that. And that's why the Bitcoin Development Fund exists.
Yeah, I'm on Twitter, I keep seeing people talk about this concept of separation of church and state, especially in the West. And the United States then took that even to a more essential level of there needs to be separation of church and state. And that's sort of part of that whole US Constitution. And now sort of the next movement is separating your money from the state, and the state controlling how you spend, when you spend, what you spend. So it's this really interesting sort of comparison about this separation of these essential human rights from the government, and taking it into your own power, taking our power back, basically. It's just sort of like, to me, it's so obvious that's the next step, is to have separation of the government and your money, access to your money and how you use it. That's where the self-custody wallet comes in, going back to the specifics, is that it allows you, then it gives you, it starts moving us in that direction of having our own power over our money energy.
Yeah, and this is what I think a lot of people don't really understand about Bitcoin, is that they think it's just another just another currency that you hold in this wallet, especially if you're holding it in a custodial wallet. Well, it's just like having money in a bank. Why would you choose Bitcoin that is fluctuating when you could just hold, I don't know, fiat in your bank? And the piece around this is because you cannot hold fiat unless you hold it in cash for yourself, where it's completely yours, right? You have complete access. You always have to have, if you have money online, you have to have it. It has to be custodial, right? So in order for me to hold my fiat online, I could always be blocked from that fiat. I could always be blocked from accessing that money, sending that money, right? So, you know, so you can just work with cash, right? You could just use cash, but that's so unpractical in this society when we have to pay things online, when we have to send things across the seas. You know, cash is quite a, it's a localized form of money. So Bitcoin is basically a currency online that is completely yours, that is operating on a network that is completely separate from the controlled banking network. And your wallet, when you have a custodial wallet, a self-custody wallet, when you are a self-custody of that wallet, only you have access to that Bitcoin in that wallet. And so it's the only thing in history, right? That's the only thing that's ever been created that is a digital form of value, a digital currency that is completely yours, that no one else can block you from using, and you can send it to anyone in the world who also uses that network. And so, it's really important to kind of to really separate that distinction, because that gives us some idea of what a CBDC. So we talked about that in another video, but CBDCs, which are central bank digital currencies, are literally a combination of state, bank, having complete control of your money, because not only do they hold your money, they actually kind of can manipulate the code of that money. So because it's a digital money, they can actually manipulate the code so that it could like deplete over time, or it could be, you could be blocked from spending it on particular things. So that is, CBDCs are taking it a step further than fiat, moving it towards a digital currency, but a digital currency that is completely controlled by the state. Whereas, that's why Bitcoin is so important. It's like the antithesis. So it is the antithesis of fiat, but it's even more the antithesis of a CBDC, because a CBDC has basically kind of taken the technology and got the state and the banks to just put their hands around it, and creating centralized blockchains that only they can see and manage. Which is, just again, it just reinforces how important Bitcoin is and how important it is to have a self-custody wallet. Even if you just have a bit on there, imagine if you sent money to someone, you didn't know at the time that you shouldn't do that. So for example, with the trucker protests, like people were sending money to the truckers, they didn't know at the time that that was something wrong to do, and then they were blocked from their accounts, right, post doing it. So imagine that you sent some money to someone that you didn't realize was going to become something that you shouldn't do, and you are prevented access. Or maybe in the future you have spent too much money on carbon intensive products, and so your account is blocked, and so you can't then buy that emergency plane ticket to go and see a mother who is sick, or you can't go and buy that food that you really need, or you can't go and you can't send a donation to someone that you really want to send money to. So having that Bitcoin in that self-custody wallet gives you this freedom for the future too, because right now it might seem like something you don't need to consider, but the way that the world is going, just have an understanding of why that's important. And just, even if it's a backstop for you and you don't look at it, just have some there to ensure yourself against any block to access to your money. If people in Afghanistan had Bitcoin, and that was a kind of global thing, it wouldn't matter that the US wasn't supplying the Taliban with money, right, with their own currency, because they would have access to Bitcoin and they could use that Bitcoin. And that is happening in quite a few countries where the currency is completely imploding. A lot of people are turning to Bitcoin because it holds value around the world, and they can still use it in places like Lebanon, for example.
Yeah, I mean, and a wonderful example is El Salvador. I mean, their currency crashed, and they were then utterly dependent on the US dollar, the IMF, to support them. And then they're in debt, and they're in this vicious cycle where, again, those governments where they've gotten the money from, the dollar, they can tell them what to do, what not to do. They don't have their sovereignty. And so now adopting Bitcoin and purchasing more and more Bitcoin and using geothermal energy from the volcano and using that for Bitcoin mining. I mean, it's just like this wonderful example. Now, granted, I haven't been there personally, but from what I can tell, this is a great example of how to become sovereign as an individual and also as a country, that was so then utterly dependent on these large mega nations and mega institutions that could control them, because they needed some kind of money, because I'm not sure what their currency was called, but it completely crashed. So yeah, so it's just one example of going towards Bitcoin and how that can really offer you power and sovereignty.
Yeah.
And I'm all for that.
Yeah, it's so powerful. Like we said before, like money is your kind of access to security, is your access to food. It is that security for us in this modern
Yeah.
world. And so any kind of denial or control over that is your denial control of your security, your own ability to feed yourself and house yourself. And so, we need to have something else. That's why it's called the people's money, because we do need to have access to something that cannot be controlled in that way. Because that is our lifeline, right, to the society and to our health and security. And in terms of those self-custody wallets, I just wanted to kind of make a final point, because we have hot and cold wallets. Now, what the difference is between the hot and cold wallets?
A hot wallet is where it's always online. It's connected to the internet. It's sort of hot because of that. Where a cold wallet, you're actually pulling that information off the internet, so people can't access that. Is
What
that?
Yeah. What information?
Oh, the information, the keys,
Yeah.
the keys to your Bitcoin, that information.
Yes.
So
Exactly.
it's much safer to have it off. Like, I'm trying to look for my cold wallet, but I can't. I think I tucked it away somewhere, where it's a stick of some type and it's offline. Whereas my hot wallet is always going to be on, in the computer, on the internet.
Yeah,
Even
exactly.
if I shut my computer down, it's on,
Yeah.
it's accessible to anybody who's
A hacker.
a hacker,
Yeah, hope you're not anyone.
to a nefarious hacker.
Yeah. Yeah. So obviously when you have self-custody and you have control over your keys, you have that seed phrase that's like your master key, and then all of the private keys for your coins come off that master key. And they are all held like in a cold wallet, like you said, they're all held on this like external hard drive. So they are never interacting with the internet. Basically, they're completely separate from the internet. So if you had a hacker getting into your computer, they wouldn't be able to access that because it's on a physical hard drive. So someone would have to actually come and take it from you. Or they would have to manipulate that hard drive before you received it, which is why it's really important to make sure that you buy these hard drives, these external, these cold wallet hard drives from directly from the producers themselves, directly from the companies themselves.
Yes.
Going back to the cold wallet, you have a digital interface, so you can see your coins like on an app on your computer, but the keys are held on this hard drive. With a hot wallet, you have an app with all of the content of your wallet, but your private keys are also contained within that app. So again, you have a master key, your seed phrase that you need to write down carefully. But if there was a nefarious actor, someone got onto your computer and hacked their way in, they could access that wallet. So it's really depending on like how safe you want to keep yourself. And with these hard drives, as long as you make sure you have that seed phrase, even if you lose that hard drive, you can basically get another one. So there are certain sort of protections around that. But I would personally, I tend to have most of my coins on a hard wallet, but then I do hold some on a hot wallet because you never know, like if you lose the seed phrase to those hard wallets, gosh, anything can happen. So I always do hold some in different places just to kind of protect myself.
Yeah, I just want to say, sort of similarly, I hold most of my crypto assets on a hard wallet. And I do have a little bit in various hot wallets that I then use for maybe sending money to somebody. Let's say via the Lightning network, Bitcoin, or sometimes I dabble a little bit in NFTs. And so I have some money, some crypto on my hot wallets so that I can purchase these NFTs.
Yeah.
But then you can also store those NFTs on your hard drive as well. So it's more of like sort of this interface to purchase something or to send something. And then once I purchase something, like let's say an NFT, I can also then put that on my hard drive. Hard drives, you can have more than one.
Yeah. And what I wanted to say just in response to that is that you can send money on and off, like you can send crypto on and off from your hardware wallet, from your device. But like you were saying, the reason why you'd have maybe a hot wallet is it's a little bit easier. And you don't necessarily have to have your hardware wallet with you. So, if you're out and about and you want to pay for something on the Lightning Network, you're not going to plug in your hardware device to your computer and be like, hold on a minute, I just need to send some Bitcoin to my Lightning Network wallet in order to send you money. So, it's wonderful for like long-term sort of safety. You can access it and send things out. It's just a little bit more of a hassle. It's not one that you want to keep going into because you have to kind of fiddle around with putting in codes and checking everything, and it's a little bit more complicated. So having a hot wallet where it's easy to access, it definitely makes all of that much easier. So yeah.
Wow, we covered a lot. We went big picture to little specific.
Yeah.
Both very important.
Yes. Really important to recognize like what we can do for ourselves and the kind of wider why. And just to kind of reinforce that reason why Bitcoin and these digital wallets, especially the self-custody digital wallets, are so important because they protect you against having your money taken from you or closed. And that's what the CBDCs, like they're being experimented on. Like in New York, there's a current test going on with CBDCs. So these central bank digital currencies. And what they're going to do in the EU are also doing it. And what they're going to do is they want to create a digital wallet for you that they have custody around. And then they will create a digital currency that they have control over, and they're going to put that digital currency in the digital wallet that they give you. And likely they may even make you hold your digital identity in that wallet too. So you can just see how everything is like tight and clamped. And that's one thing about self-custody to custodian, even in the crypto space, is the ones that are custody, you often do have to KYC. You have to, it's know your customer. So you often have to give them a photo, take a photo of yourself, give them all of your details. So they know exactly who you are in order to custody your coins. Self-custody currently don't ask you for anything. So they don't know who you are. Nobody knows you have those wallets. So that's also the difference too, is that you have complete privacy currently over those self-custody wallets.
Yeah, and that's important for all those reasons that we just shared, having that separation of money and government, and having that freedom, that autonomy. Yeah, in the best possible sense.
Yeah. I'm so glad that I feel so grateful that I know about Bitcoin and that I'm in this space. I feel so much more comfortable. And that's why I've never worried about the price. I'm just like, it doesn't matter. The price doesn't matter because I'm not planning to sell it. All I want to do is have enough in there that should anything go wrong, with my other wallets, I can live off that Bitcoin. You know, I just love the fact that I have this choice, and I want others to recognize that they all, you know, everybody has a choice, and it's just about learning about it. And then you can then have that autonomy and that feeling of sovereignty over part of your wealth, part of your value. Great conversation. I love our conversations because they always take us in places that I wouldn't expect. I'm like, okay, we've gone there, and I love that. Um,
Yeah,
and
it's a free flow.
yeah,
It's great. And I think we work so well, our different energies, and it takes us to these really cool places. I find it thrilling and grounding at the same time.
yeah, yeah, same. So anyone listening, just to let you know that the next course that I'm running, which is Bitcoin Beginner to Basic Trader, that program is starting in January, on January the 15th, 2023. So if you're listening to this in advance of that, then please consider joining that program if you want to learn more about Bitcoin, if you want to go deep, if you want to feel like you understand the space and have autonomy over your Bitcoin. So if you want to join, then go to the website, which is thecryptoethic.com. So otherwise, please, if you're enjoying these, then do like, subscribe, press the bell button and the all.
All.
I think I listened to you say it.
Press the bell button and all.
Yay. Alrighty. Well, I shall see you next time.
Yes. Ciao.